Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Grow business. Transform Gujarat.
My role is actually setting the context for this session. So I think from morning we are talking about the ESG. So today we have some practical example how actually the consultant or think tanks are working with the MSME and helping them for set their low carbon transition. So as we know, MSME play a very pivotal role in economic development from manufacturing and service sectors. However, their growth often comes from the environmental challenges like resources depletion, waste generation and carbon emissions. As industry expand, that pressing a need on integrated, sustainable practices into the MSME operations to ensure environmental stewardship and compliance with the green global standards. This session will explore the need for collectively efforts across the industry to drive sustainability and economic growth. So, as WRI India, we are the one think tank. We are helping MSMEs in Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. So I'll just share my experience, what we are doing with the MSMEs. So in Surat, we are helping textile MSME. So we have almost 450 MSME and each MSME have a boiler. And you know that almost all the boilers run from the fuel like coal. So what we have set the roadmap for them. So we have 4 pillars, we identified 4 pillars. One is the decarbonization, where we are helping them enabling MSME reduction through 4 major activities, like we are starting with the GHG emission inventory. Then we identified the MSME where we can do walkthrough audit and detail audit, and we help them to identify the right kind of energy efficient technology. Also help them to identify the right kind of fuel for the alternative to the coal. And also we did help them for developing a renewable energy plan. And not only that, because that's a technology wide, but we are also helping them through various top-down level skill development, like sensitization workshop for the owners, their middle management, and at the workshop, workers level, soft floor worker level. So today we can say almost 250 boiler operators and attendant trained through with the boiler department. And we can say right now, based on our experience and what they are shared the data, almost today 1 to 1.5 ton coal they are reducing through their efficient training. So that definitely make a change. Apart from this, we are helping them to connect with the right kind of financing agency for the investment in energy efficient technology and renewable energy. And we know that due to climate change, there are many certain shocks and stresses, chronic stresses are there. So we are helping them how to actually make them a resilience against economic, against climate and other issues. So today we have a number of speakers who are already working with the MSMEs with their expertise, and we will know that what they are doing and how they are creating an impact with the MSMEs. Last but not least, we are always asked or said them, we are here not show you a कायदा, हम आपको कायदा दिखाने लेके नहीं आए, हम हमेशा आपका फायदा कराने आए हैं. So I think MSME always looking their profit margin because they are working very thin margin. So with that statement, I think I'm open the floor for the other speakers. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon to you all. Great to be here amongst all the participants, industries and from other sectors. As a regulator, perhaps it's not a right forum, but yes, today I have come as a facilitator for the circularity. And today's topic is circularity and MSME. Here both are very buzzwords, but to me important is MSME. Because circularity in a larger industry, perhaps it can be done very easily, but to adopt it in a micro and small scale industry, you need to have a paradigm shift. And when we are aiming from a 5 trillion economy and going for net zero in 2070, perhaps the responsibility on the shoulders of the industry is very much higher. And to address this, what should be the roadmap? What can be the probable solutions? What are the challenges ahead? And perhaps discussion is required amongst all, and it's also a part of action plan. So perhaps presentations is like this. In the first slide, I would like to say that Niti Aayog has now given us a roadmap. They have identified the streams of the waste which are having a prominence and a presence into circularity map. And if you see the waste, it can be broadly classified into two parts. Few are the industrial waste and few are the urban waste. And our concern is more, or our focus is more for the industrial waste, because there is very high potential of the circularity. As you are all aware, I mean, instead of a linear, you now want to go a circular. And when you need to close a loop, you need to have a out-of-box thinking. Because if you see the scenario of industry, particularly chemical and MSME, where we have a very strong presence, I mean, only former concept was you produce, you have either a product or a waste. And waste was being simply disposed into environment. Now we have started understanding that waste is nothing but a resource at a wrong place, and how we can put it at a right place, perhaps it is our job. So when we talk about the circularity, as I have mentioned, I mean, we have a urban waste as well as the industrial waste, used oil, e-waste, plastic waste are the waste which are generated in a very large quantum, perhaps the hazard potential and impact on receptor, very high impact on a receptor, perhaps a negative impact on a receptor, and we are more concerned about that. And to address this, what you need? You need policy support, you need to have a technical interventions, and you need to have a economic and employment aspects to see in, to pitch in your action plan. And for that, I mean, policy supports are very much important. We are having few policies in place at present which are required to be strengthened in future, which has to be more supportive to promote the circularity. So we'll discuss in the next slides what is the present status, where are the gaps, where we need to, take care of, and what is the requirement. We need to have, to my understanding, is perhaps more research and development, more innovation into this. When you talk about a circularity, you always talk about a life cycle approach. You need to have a life cycle approach. I mean, you cannot just see that how you manufacture it, but you also need to take care how it is being utilized and what it will happen to your product at the end of its life. So there are various, say, good examples also now dovetail into our policy regime. If you talk about the electronic items, now we have ROHS in the place, I mean, which reduces the use of hazardous waste into product itself. You need to change in the design of your product. If you change your design, you can think how its life can be extended, how its components can be more recycled and reused. So this is innovation. There is a need for a research and development to address all these issues. So research and development and innovation is perhaps the key if you want to promote circularity. Number two is in all such sectors there is a strong presence of unorganized sector. How we can integrate this unorganized sector into our framework of existing regime so as to promote the circularity. So these are the aspects that we need to take care. The slide speaks about what is the policy regime at present, where we need to strengthen it. At present, we are having a very good policies. We have a wastewater use policy also. Gujarat is the first state which has a policy for the utilization or reuse of the water. And if I give you a classic example of this, that Surat Municipal Corporation at present recycles more than 70 million liter of water per day, that is treated sewage is being utilized into textile industry. See, this is a wonderful example and it has set a model for a country to replicate into other cities where, I mean, municipal corporation itself treats sewage in 70 million liter capacity and give it as a raw water or industrial grade water into textile sector. Likewise, we are having a waste to energy policy also. We have at present 2 waste to energy plants in the state and 2 more are coming into major cities, Rajkot and Vadodara. Similarly, we are having a vehicle scrap policy, we are promoting RVSF, and we have a renewable energy policy. So, as I said, I mean, what are the challenges, where are the gaps, how we can bridge those gaps. As I already discussed that research and development is also a challenge. You need to coordinate with the agency. Coordination is very much important. I mean, we are known to work in isolations, we work in silos. We need to integrate ourselves. Different departments, different agencies needs to come together. They need to coordinate with each other, and then the result or goal can be achieved. Integrations of the informal sector, as I have said, where there are the policy gaps, we need to bridge those gaps, and capacity building is very much important. I mean, capacity building of not only say industry or a single stakeholder, you need to build a capacity of the multiple stakeholders. You need to even build the capacity of academia, auditors, environmental auditors, those who are into this work, industry and even regulators also. So capacity building is also very much required. So how we can do this? I mean, integration of a formal sector, public participation, green job creations, this is an advantage. I mean, what would be advantage of this? I mean, if you promote this circularity concept, you can create a green job. So these are the, say, perhaps ways to meet two ends. I mean, how we can meet these two ends. And we have good successful examples of along ship breaking yard, community boilers, emission trading schemes. I mean, these all subjects are topic in themselves where we can discuss and deliberate. So we have good practices also in Gujarat. I mean, community boiler is being said now considered as a good practice. Earlier speaker says that they give a training to boiler operators, and WRI is now working to promote use of biomass briquette instead of a coal or other polluting fuels. So these are the good practices that we have a presence in the state of Gujarat. I mean, that should be replicated, that should be multiplied and implemented. So at the end, I mean, circularity, it's now not only a vision, but now it is a matter of practice in our industry. Particularly in MSME, challenges are more, as I said, that they have a limitations of our knowledge. They have a limitations of technology, they have limitations of say finance also. So you need to give them a different platform, then we need to give them a different solutions, and perhaps building common environment infrastructure is also one of the way to resolve all these things. So yes, MSME is a sector which requires more focus for the implementation of circular economy. Perhaps that's perhaps my thoughts on circularity and MSME. We can discuss it further. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Manish. I'm from EKI Energy Services Limited. Thanks to the organizers for having me here to speak on the topic carbon markets, which is going to be a very hot environmental commodity, not only in India but across the globe. As we all know that there are 4 different layers of the carbon markets which are going to get established. First layer is because of the international compliances, that means the Paris Agreement. As you know, there are 2 different markets which are going to get established under the international compliance carbon market. One is the Article 6.2 carbon market, and second one is Article 6.4 market. So, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, they recently came up with 14 different technology lists, wherein if someone will do invest, then they are eligible to earn for the carbon credit, which is traded, which can be traded globally, and the companies or the countries who are looking to become carbon neutral or net zero, they can buy those credits. The second layer, which is going to get established in India, is called as CCTS, Carbon Credit Trading Scheme, wherein Bureau of Energy Efficiency under Ministry of Power is looking to establish a compliance national carbon market under Energy Conservation Act 22. So, the third different layer, which is again going to get established in India, is the voluntary carbon market called as offset mechanism. So, under that Energy Conservation Act 22, voluntary, the non-obligated entities, if they are looking to become carbon neutral, if they are looking to become net zero companies, then they would be allowed to buy carbon credits under the offset mechanism. And the fourth layer is the international voluntary carbon markets, wherein the companies like in India, like say NHPC or NTPC or Azure Power, Renew Energy, Renew Power, these are the companies who are developing carbon credits. And the companies like BMW or Mercedes or Lufthansa Airlines or Heathrow Airport, they are buying those credits which are located in the developed nations. So, these 4 different layers, out of the 4 different layers, only last layer, which is the international voluntary carbon market, do exist as of now in India, wherein private developers or government organizations, they are developing the credits, and those credits they are selling in the international voluntary carbon market, wherein international companies or international manufacturing or service organizations, they are buying those credits. So 3 different layers which I have mentioned, they are about to get established in India and many developing or developed nations. So to start with, while giving introduction of about this 4 different layers, I want to mention you what is actually the definition of carbon credit. So 1 ton CO2 equivalent emission reduction, if you do any business activity, wherein if you are reducing any of the 7 greenhouse gas, CO2, that means carbon dioxide, methane, HFC, PFC, NF3, SF6 and N2O. These are the 7 greenhouse gases, and if you do any business activity with the help of which if you are trying to reduce or remove any of the 7 greenhouse gas, then you are eligible to earn carbon credits. And those carbon credits are the environmental commodities which can be traded in the national voluntary or compliance markets and international voluntary or compliance markets. So if you see the definition, 1 carbon credit corresponds to 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide or equivalent GHG greenhouse gas sequestered or prevented from entering into the atmosphere. Yeah, so this is the procedure wherein we can get the project registered. So 3 different stages used to be there for getting the carbon credits issued or traded. So first thing is we have to register the project. Second step is we have to get the verification of the emission reductions, and third stage is to trade the credits. So if you see this cycle, the third one is the consultant. Consultants used to prepare a project design document for getting the project registration. Then we need to hire a third-party inspection company. Further, project used to get registered. The registration time period is used to vary based on the program or the standard wherein we have applied for those projects registration or verification. And finally, every year we need to get the verifications to get the issuance of the credit. So this is the standard procedure. For the national compliance market, which is going to establish in India, called as CCTS, it works on the company basis, wherein specific emission reduction targets would be given to the organizations or to the companies, while the 3 different markets, one is the international compliance market, that means Article 6.2, 6.4 market, or Indian voluntary carbon market or international voluntary carbon market, where under that specific 3 different markets we can get the projects registered on the project basis, not at the company basis. So for example, if you see the NTPC, they do have various big thermal power plants wherein they are emitting million tons of CO2, while if they are investing into the renewable energy projects like solar power project, wind power project, they can get the issuance of the credits on that specific 100 megawatt solar power project or 50 megawatt wind power project, while at the company level they are the net emitter. So that is the major difference between the compliance, national compliance market and rest of the 3 different carbon markets. Further, there are 2 different types of carbon credits which do exist in our industry. One is avoidance based carbon credits and another one is removal based carbon credits. So during the first session, the presenter had asked what is the major difference you see between the carbon neutrality and net zero. So for any company, for any nation, if they are looking to become carbon neutral or if they are looking to become net zero, the 3 different steps are there. First thing is to measure how much they are emitting. That means determination of the carbon footprint. Second thing is they should do whatever they can do to reduce the emissions, either adopting renewable energy or energy efficiency or any business activity that they can do to reduce their emissions. And at the last, for the residual emissions, they can buy avoidance based carbon credits or they can buy removal based carbon credits. So if any company which is looking to become carbon neutral, again they have to follow these 3 different steps, but at the last they can buy, if they will do buy carbon avoidance based projects, then they would be called as carbon neutral company or country, and if they will do buy carbon removal credits, then they would be called as net zero company or net zero country or net zero product. So what is the difference between these 2, the carbon removal credits and carbon reduction credits? The first thing is direct impact on the climate. So actively, this removal based carbon credits, they help to actively remove carbon dioxide or the other greenhouse gas from the atmosphere, leading to a net decrease of the greenhouse gas which is already exists into the atmosphere. So that is why the carbon removal credits is the need of the hour or the future of the carbon markets by year 2030, 2040, 2050. So as of now, the avoidance or reduction based credits, their market share is around 96%. While removal based credits, they do have market share of only 4%, but by 2030, by 2040, by 2050, as we all know, major nations, major economies, they had declared that they wish to become net zero nation by year 2050. Chinese government had mentioned for 2060 and Indian government had mentioned for 2070. So by that specific year, whatever the emissions that they are doing, they have to remove equivalent tons of CO2 which they are emitting into the atmosphere, and if they would not be able to achieve that specific goal called as NDC, National Determined Contribution Goal, then through that specific document, if they are not able to achieve, then they can buy carbon credits which are developed by other developing or developed nations. The carbon reduction credits, they slows the rate of increase in emissions, but does not directly help in reduction of the emissions of the greenhouse gases. The second difference is long-term benefits. So obviously, carbon removal based credits, they give very, very long-term benefit to the atmosphere or to the this global warming issue or climate change issue, while the reduction based credits, they reduces future emissions but may not address accumulated carbon which already exists into the atmosphere, and otherwise it is getting emitted into the atmosphere on year-to-year basis by all the economies. The third thing is alignment with the net zero goals. So I have already mentioned that if any company or country which is looking to become net zero, obviously they have to buy the removal based carbon credits and not avoidance based carbon credits. The rates, if you see, if you wish to buy, or if you are producing avoidance-based carbon credits. So the example I want to give between the two is if the carbon removal project. So if you are doing afforestation project, reforestation project, or if you are producing biochar from the biomass, or if you are doing direct air capture. So all these activities, business activities, used to be considered under the removal-based category, and if you are installing renewable energy projects like solar power project, wind power project, hydro, biomass, biogas, or if you are doing energy efficiency projects or energy optimization related or process optimization related activities, then you are helping to get that equivalent tons of CO2 emission into the atmosphere, and that is why you would be able to earn the avoidance based carbon credits. So various states these days are looking to have their carbon related policies, how they would get leverage or how they can get benefit from the voluntary carbon markets, how they can get leverage or benefit from the international compliance carbon markets, that means 6.2 and 6.4, and that is how and they are also, many states are also trying to align their policies with the carbon markets or net zero emission goals at the country level. The support at the technological innovation. So the major carbon removal technologies are not very much technologically viable. That is why the rates of the carbon credits which are coming from the removal sector or removal based carbon credits are very, very costly. They start with around $150 per ton CO2, and 1 ton CO2 is that means 1 carbon credit. It encourages investments in new carbon capture and storage technologies, and while reduction based projects focuses on improving existing processes and energy efficiency or energy optimization. Versatile application can be applied to offset unavoidable emissions in sectors like aviation, agricultural, etc., other sectors. And the reduction based credits are limited to reducing emissions in the specific sectors. So this is the major difference between the avoidance based credits and the removal based credits. Developed economies, as you all know, they're up to 2020 there was one international treaty called as Kyoto Protocol, wherein developed nations had obligation to reduce their emissions, and if they were not able to achieve that obligation, they were allowed to buy carbon credits originated from the developing nations like India, China and other nations. And that specific program used to be called as the Clean Development Mechanism, but now we are into the Paris Agreement era. All nations are equally obligated to reduce their emissions, equally pledged to become net zero nations by the specific year in between 2050 to 2070. And this carbon credits are going to play very important role. Major economies, they had mentioned that they are going to take leverage of the carbon markets through their national determined contribution document starting from year 2030. So as of now, as I mentioned, only international voluntary carbon markets do exist, while 3 different markets are going to get established in next 6 to 12 months timeline. And if any project activity wish to participate under Article 6.2 or 6.4 carbon markets, then they need to get the letter of approval from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. These are all the governing bodies, because during last 10 years there were no governing body in the carbon markets, and that is why there are two major questions which do exist as of now. One is related to the quality of carbon credit, another one is a greenwashing concern that has been done by some buyers at the developed economies. That is why these two agencies came into the picture, called as ICVCM and VCMI. Along with CRSI, they are working towards the creation of the industry standard for the voluntary carbon markets, while supervisory body under UNFCCC, they are looking to establish all the rules, regulations related to the establishment of Article 6.4 carbon market, also called as PACM, that means Paris Agreement Crediting Mechanism. These are a few of the standards which are there. We'll do complete in 2 minutes. These are the standards which are there in our industry, wherein if you are looking to register your project, then with the help of the consultant, and if you have your technical capabilities, you can apply for the registrations. Usually registration time period takes from 1 to 2 years during these days, and the verification time period varies in between 6 months to 12 months. So the first revenue cycle you should expect in between 2 to 3 years, and that is very long period, but maybe in coming future we will be able to see the shorter period wherein you would be able to monetize the revenue from the sale of carbon credit after registration and verification. These are all the CDR methodologies. Again, 3 different categories. One is nature-based, second one is hybrid, and third one is the engineered solutions. So I will wrap up my presentation. If you do Google it, you would be able to find all these technologies. Few are very simple and few are very, very complicated. Few you can start your business activity or investment activity with few $1 million, while the removal based or direct air capture projects, they start with a $1 billion investment category. I will come up directly to the last slide of mine, wherein you would be able to see the rates of carbon removal credits. As of now, the avoidance based credits are ranging in between $0.3 to $5, while removal based credits are ranging. The afforestation, reforestation projects, their prices are ranging between $10 to $20, while mangrove related projects, their prices are ranging in between $30 to $40, while biochar or other engineered projects into the removal sector, their prices are ranging in between $1,500 to $150 to $1,600. So starting with ocean alkalinity enhancement and coming to the bottom, microbial mineralization. These are the activities wherein the removal based carbon credits can be generated, and if you do invest or if you do create any project into this specific sector, very easily you would be able to find the buyer as compared to the avoidance based projects. So this is the last slide. Removal carbon credits industry is a need of the hour to align with the Paris Agreement net zero goals. It's biggest commodity sector to grow in this century and going to be the $1 trillion industry to save living beings to survive on the planet Earth. About EKI, so we work with the seller of the credits, we work with the buyer of the credits, and we work with the investors. Thank you very much.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Thank you, organizer, for having me here, and it's a great opportunity for me to present sort of work that we do closely with MSME in terms of energy assessment and sustainability studies. In the interest of time, I will quickly run through my presentation highlighting the key activities that we conduct for MSMEs in Gujarat. Just to set the context here, we all know like India's Panchamrut about the climate action plan. I mean, how we are planning to try to reach towards net zero by 2070 with 5 goals like 500 gigawatt of RE integration by 2030, then 50% of country's energy requirement to be met by RE, renewable energy resources, and so on and so forth. Many of us know about this commitment that India set across with the 3 timelines by 2030, then 2050, and finally net zero by 2070. Moving forward, we talk about energy efficiency and why in MSMEs. So when we look at the pyramid here, energy efficiency is the foundation of the all strategies that we follow towards net zero by 2070. And therefore, our focus is energy efficiency, energy conservation measures. And in my following slide, we could notice like why energy efficiency play important role in MSMEs. And therefore, our target is to work closely with MSMEs to improve this energy efficiency and thereby monetary benefits and finally carbon emission reduction. So here if you look at the major approaches that we followed for MSME in Gujarat, and as I said, like when we look at this MSME cluster, state of Gujarat contributes a lot in MSME. Within Gujarat, if we see the map, Ahmedabad, Surat and Rajkot is very much centered with around more than 50% or roughly 50% of the MSME, registered MSME in Gujarat. And therefore, our first focus is Ahmedabad and these other 2 major cities in Gujarat. Not major city, major districts in Gujarat. So now the question is why academic institution like IIT Gandhinagar should engage in this kind of activities. And when I say academic institute, I find like the major challenges that MSMEs are finding are like they may not be well aware about the energy efficient technologies to be adopted in the process. Where are the sort of opportunities to minimize the losses and in turn improve the monetary benefits to them? And finally, carbon emission reduction. The second is the technology. OEMs, the MSMEs or industry may not be well aware about the energy efficient technologies, and therefore we as an academia can come together and work with the technology partners, work with the MSMEs and provide them a right solution by doing the detailed energy assessment and technically implementable recommendation with a proper ROI so that the industry professional can be confident enough to adopt that technology with the right contact to the EESL or even the other funding agency here. So that's how we can create, this is what the big picture showing how industry and academia come together and work for helping MSME in reducing the energy loss. And we work with the different IITs. So Kotak Mahindra Bank, under the CSR initiative support, we are working across pan-India, and IIT Gandhinagar is taking care of MSMEs in Gujarat. So this is CSR initiative. What we do, we all know there are professional energy auditors do the activities, and there are mandatory energy audits, but we go beyond mandatory energy audit, and therefore these are the key activities that we do, like power quality, electricity analysis, power factor correction panel, and all are the traditionally done. But analysis of thermal analysis of the major plant equipments, including the electrical assets to the mechanical assets, then the flue gas analysis, temperature measurement. Most recently, we started doing this audit on emission accounting dashboard for scope 1 and 2 specifically. Then performance assessment of solar PV. As we know, most of these MSMEs have now started installing solar PV on a roof. But do we have a proper monitoring and the performance assessment of solar PV system on industry? The third point that we notice after doing multiple energy audits in the industry, the earth loop resistance measurement. Many of this industry having not maintaining the earth resistance, and therefore there used to be a potential difference between earth terminal and the neutral terminal, which would really affect a lot to the performance of the system. Then the action plan for net zero. Every industries are committed for action plan. so that industry can help contributing towards a net zero pathway for India. And most importantly, like one of the previous speakers mentioned about MSME training, MSME workforce training. And that's where you would notice in my following slides that how rigorously we really help MSME workforce to train towards this awareness program. So what we have done so far, we started these activities, I think 2 years before, to be very precise, June 2022. And we have so far completed 37 detailed energy audits and around 78 walkthrough energy audit. And we have covered almost most of these MSME-centric districts and area in Gujarat, covering many of these clusters. So we have covered around 28 clusters. And in terms of the benefits, or I would say the outcome, this is what the outcome at the end of Q3 of this current financial year. And if you look at the energy saving out of, based on the 37 energy audit, the energy saving potential and then in turn monetary benefits, we recommended around 1,800 lakhs rupees financial benefit to MSME. Out of that, around 600 lakhs rupees they have implemented. I would say it is very important for energy auditor or energy assessment team is to gauge or assess how much ECM or how many ECM rather energy conservation measures are being implemented by industry, because some of the measures, some of the ECMs require the initial investment, capital investment. If industry see the value of that ECM implementation, then only they will implement. So 600 rupees lakhs out of, the lakhs rupees out of 1800 lakhs rupees ECM recommendation, I feel that is really bring us a confidence that, okay, our recommendations were considered worthy by industry to implement. Then in terms of carbon emission reduction, we always translate if this much energy is saved in terms of the fuel input, let's say coal, gas, oil or so, and finally electrical energy, how much would be the CO2 emission, equivalent CO2 emission reduction. So we identified around 16,000 tons carbon equivalent opportunity identified under scope 1 and similarly scope 2. But based on implementation, ECM implementation, we say around 7,000 tons equivalent CO2 is being already reduced under the scope 1, and scope 2 we can see 2,800 tons carbon equivalent. So I am trying to give you the figure here so that one can understand the actual implementation of ECM that we recommended. Here are the industries that we have done the energy assessment, and the numbers are mentioned here, like CETP in Vatwa, CETP in Narora, CETP in Ankleshwar, and then cold storages. Himatnagar is a full of cold storages, and we have done the energy audit. In this energy audit or assessment rather, we consider electrical energy conservation measures, thermal electrical conservation measures, then utility bill saving in terms of reducing in terms of helping them to optimize the contract demand and renewable energy intervention. And if you see this figure, sector-wise, how much energy saving potential, percentage energy saving, for example, CETP 12.5% or so and so forth. And when recently we assessed the energy in a sugar factory where we found around 24% energy saving potential. But sugar is like it's a very combined, it's a combined cycle. So therefore CO2 emission is almost zero actually, because of they use the raw material to run the entire plant. So therefore you could notice the actual CO2 reduction is zero in the second last column where the sugar industry is being done. So the question is, 2 minutes. The question is like why this is by the academia institute like us. And here we say we have a state-of-the-art instrumentation that we use. Some of them are listed here. In interest of time, I will skip. We do this. We do the thorough analysis on all these apparatus, including the renewable energy installation at the industry. And you could see different type of software that you use for a flue gas analysis, for a solar PV performance assessment, and so on and so forth. We have developed our own energy data analytics tool that we are going to give to the industry our MSME industry partners here. So these are some of the photographs, glimpse that our energy auditor team with the full instrumentation, following all these safety standards, doing this activity. I would like to quickly run through two specific case studies. One is solar PV installation. We found in one of the industry, just because of inappropriate solar PV injection, utility ended paying penalty not maintaining the power factor. So that is one. Second is the inverter temperature. Every inverter has a set temperature to operate, and if that is not the case, energy efficiency will reduce. The second case is the voltage. Grid tied, all grid tied inverters has to operate within the boundary condition of the voltage. And if you notice, if that voltage is not between, let's say 450 to something, then the power generation will throttle and it may even reduce to zero. And that has been done for one of the industry having a 500 kilowatt solar PV. And most of the time, if you notice, this is monsoon period, you notice that because of the voltage variation, the power generation reduced. This is another use case of chemical industry, where just by helping them reducing the leakage in the throttle valve, we could able to achieve 40% of energy savings. So the plant operation was 50 hours, which got reduced to 30 hours, and that's how you see the process optimization. And in turn, this was a coal-based power plant. So how much coal is reduced, and in turn CO2 emission reduction from 50 hours to 30 hours operation. Yeah, so I will skip this, but here also if you see this thermopec power plant, and you see the energy consumption of the oversized impeller design led to the plant 25 lakhs kilocalorie per hour, and actual rated requirement was only 9 lakhs kilocalorie. And that's how we really help them to reduce the energy bill. So these are the recommendations, electrical recommendation, thermal and the utility bill. I can share this presentation to the interested audience. And we have the India level study. One can refer this report where, as I said, 7 IITs are involved in energy assessment study. This is the report where we compile all multiple use cases across the different cluster across India, and one can refer this. It's an online available report. You can see this. We are going to give this tool to MSME. This is what in-house developed tool, and this would help. Okay, so this is the last slide. Like the very simple steps that industry who are interested to participate in this energy assessment study, just submit the very simple Google form by scanning this QR, and we can reach out to the industry by doing the walkthrough analysis, and we identify the nodes where energy assessment or energy saving is possible, and then we go with a detailed energy assessment with a team, energy auditor, field engineers, and so on and so forth. So this is how the kind of activities that we do for MSME and help them to improve the energy efficiency. And we expect that with that implementation, we can really contribute towards the path on decarbonization of MSME. Thank you very much, and open for a discussion towards the end of this session. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, GCCI, for giving me this opportunity. After a presentation by Professor of IIT Gandhinagar, it is really difficult to make a fresh point, but friends, many of you are really from MSME. So I would like to start with asking you a question, that is energy transition logical for MSME? Are you agree? Is it really logical that we do energy transition or not? So one of the option or one of the answer can be here in this slide, if you can look at the screen. So but I have intentionally not put one option in this thing, because that point we are discussing from morning itself. So I have specifically not put one more option. But basically energy transition we really require in our country because of the energy security, because our Honorable Prime Minister has a vision that India should also be energy independent by 2047. So energy transition is a need by all the industry partners. Then if we do energy transition, it will really create many jobs. Then public health is also one of the very big issue, because as we know, the entire energy that we consume comes from fossil fuel. So it has a very negative, say, externality in terms of PM10 and other pollutants, PM 2.5, PM 10. So it really harms the public health. Then India is really blessed with abundant source of renewable energy, which is not the case with every country, because every country have their own energy base, and we know that Gulf countries, they have the petroleum. For example, United States, they have the shale gas. But really, if we see at look at India, then we know that we have a lot of bioenergy, we have a lot of sunny days, and thus we have a very good renewable energy. Then we have one of the most growing demand of energy. In one of the slide today, I seen that how much India contributes to global GDP growth, and that is directly linked with our need for energy. Then definitely we look at the finance and savings in our pockets. So when we do energy transition, one of the major logic is saving of money. Then international leadership, because if we do something, then we can dictate some other nation to do so. So that leadership we can provide. Then definitely biodiversity, one speaker will talk more on those things, therefore I'm skipping it. And then also resilience to climate impact. So I have not put sustainability or environmental goods here, but apart from this, that is also one of the major logic for energy transition. So if we see India's GHG emission, then as per the latest data, our annual emission is in tune of 2.9 billion ton of CO2 equivalent. So if we want to proceed for net zero, we have to make this 3 billion ton to a zero. So it is a mammoth task before us. So from our LULUCF sector, we can abate some of the emission, but it is really less than a half billion. So carbon dioxide we emit as of the overall GHG emission around 80%. Then comes the methane. Then if we see emission by sector, then energy constitutes 75% of our emission, and therefore energy transition is one of the major thing. So I will not go in much detail, but we have some encouraging figures at the end of this slide, that we have grown in solar energy in last 10 years 35 times. Can you imagine how much we have grown in last 10 years, and what we require to grow still till 2050? Anyone has any idea? Friends, this is really important topic, so you can contribute. How much energy need India will have in next 25 years? Our energy demand will grow by 26 times, Samir bhai. What we have today, we will grow in terms of energy demand by 26 times. So we know the potential of this sector, and therefore I think you have included this topic today for the discussion. So how our energy comes presently? So our primary energy supply comes mainly in form of two major source of energy, that is crude oil and coal, and it is like growing at the rate of 15% annually. So every year we demand more and more energy, and therefore industry has a major role to play in climate change mitigation. So these all data are in public domain, so I don't want to repeat, but I just want to highlight that some of our industry sectors like steel, iron, aluminum, paper and pulp, so they account for major portion of our energy need. And MSME sector also plays a major role because it contributes quarter to our GDP, and there are millions of people who are part of this MSME fraternity. So it is one of the greatest job giver in the country, and therefore they are required, and they are quite unorganized, and therefore they require extra hand holding. So how our MSMEs will be able to do? So I have used two color code in the two boxes. So that signifies that one of the set of things that we are really focusing, like Professor told, that he is doing free of cost energy audit of the MSME. But beyond that, we require certain step to become more efficient and more competitive in the global market. So I think we really require to focus on the box which is at the right side of the screen. So that talks about real circular economy practices, because already Devang sir has told us about the circular economy aspects and how policies are there, what are the incentives, what are government's focus are there, but we require to bring those aspects into practice, and there are really good opportunity. Supply chain management, then employee engagement and training is, I think, one of the very key area which nobody has talked since the morning. Then also we should do better marketing and consumer engagement, because we have many sustainable practices but we don't highlight. So by way of better communication, we can highlight those aspects, and people are sometimes not aware about the many sustainable practices they already do, because we have a tendency to minimize waste. We have already doing something so that our waste is consumed by some other industry. So these are real opportunities, and carbon footprint and reporting is also one of the major thing that we really require to focus. So these are some of the key steps that should be done by any MSME if they want to do energy transition. So if they follow these 5 points, then I think they can achieve it. So it is always a pleasure to be with industry partner, and we are here to help and guide and motivate. And if you are really struggling to do energy transition, then definitely the set of experts who are here on the panel today are really willing to help those on case-to-case basis. Thank you.
Together we grow, and I think before I dive into how and now what as an SME, so where do I start and how can I build resilience in my organization? I want to introduce shortly the PUM organization where I work for. We are a Dutch-based organization, already or founded 45 years ago, and we are helping ambitious SMEs in developing economies, in growth actually. Growth economically, socially, but also ecologically. And we do that not only looking at you as an SME as such, but also the environment you're operating. So your, let's call it ecosystem or your business system. We do that with 1,200 volunteers, all highly knowledgeable across different sectors, from agriculture to manufacturing, energy, and also in different disciplines. We have local representatives in 30 countries. This is our team in India, and yeah, if you want to know more, want to reach out, we are a not-for-profit organization. Jolly Joseph is here, representative in this area. So yeah, get in touch with him, I would say, if you want to know more. So, 10 minutes, I have 10 minutes, so I'm Dutch, so normally I'm quite strict on planning, but I have 7 minutes left, so I'll give it a try. We talked a lot about stricter regulations, ESG regulations, and what it means for you an SME, and especially if you want to move or are into international trade. So I want to give you a bit more information on that, what are actually the key directives to take into account, but also what are the steps for me to build resilience. And then I thought, well, I'm going to, actually, what is resilience? It's fun, it's a bit, yeah, also open door maybe, but it's actually, resilience is, and also in your organization, how do you build resilience is that you are aware of something, of a changing situation or a challenge or an opportunity, that you are able and willing to do something about it, and that you actually also take real-time action. So I hope also from this conference that you have in mind, and after my presentation, that you take 1 or 2 actions in mind when you go back and that you start working on it. I think we have already discussed a lot about sustainable energy, and beyond the environmental benefits and taking care of planet Earth. You have planet, people, and profit, but what comes first? Yeah, without the planet, we don't have people, and without people, we don't have profit. So you can decide for yourself what the order is, but it also had health benefits, especially also this morning was talked about air pollution. Sustainable energy is a smart financial decision, and it's also a smart health decision. So the production of energy from renewables over time, or not in the long run, is also cheaper, because the sun will not always shine, the wind will not always blow, but in the end you have technologies like storage, so you're becoming more independent as well from energy supply from the grids with the volatile pricing. Okay. Did I go too quick? Yeah. There are 3 key global trends with the stricter ESG requirements. And that is, of course, you see that governments require more ESG compliance. That will also come in probably in India on carbon offset, CO2 certification, and so forth. And that means for businesses that you need to look at your supply chain, and they structure, and you see that also in Europe, that they restructure their supply chain from the source, from procurement towards supply to the consumer. On the other hand, the consumers and investors also require or prioritize brands and businesses that are acting responsible with regard to sustainability and also social responsible. In Europe has the Green Deal. I don't know if you have heard about it. I don't think you have, maybe, or most of you don't have. But the Green Deal is actually the European strategy towards climate neutrality in 2030, to have a dramatic reduction of CO2 emissions and methane emissions. And it's a Green Deal that goes across sections. And it's not only relevant, or it's what changed, that this is mandatory. So under this Green Deal, there are directives, laws, regulations that are important to know. And these are actually more or less, there are much more. It's a whole package of 70 pages or something. But some key directives are the ones that you see here. It's about reporting on your carbon footprint, water consumption, waste management. It's mainly applicable for large companies. And what are large companies? Companies with more than 250 employees and a revenue of 50 million. However, it also is applicable for international business. If you are a supplier of a bigger company, this company can ask you as well for giving insights on or traceability in the supply chain on what you are delivering. The other one is REACH, that has to do with same use of chemicals in the products, and that is applicable also international. If you export more than 1 ton, 1,000 kilograms, that means you need to register and certify your export products. Then we have CBAM, that is a CO2 tariff on high energy intensity products, cement and steel, and to prevent also carbon leakage. To give you an example, and the idea behind this is also that the EU want to promote a global sustainable production. I worked for a big energy company in Europe, and we had also coal plants, and we sold those coal plants just to reduce our CO2 footprint. So, and we sold it to an East European organization. But in the end, it doesn't mean anything for the total CO2 footprint. So to avoid this type of carbon leakage, this directive comes at play. And then we have a waste framework collective. That is also for if you have more than 1 ton exported materials like plastic and packaging, then also you need to do the reporting. So that is something, if you want to grow internationally, take it into account that there are directives which is important to take into account. It's not only, and also we discussed, it's not only a burden in terms of resourcing that you need to spend time on these regulations, do the reporting, etc. But it has a value addition, and I think I will skip this slide, but we discussed it quite a lot on that there is a business model, a stronger market position. It gives you access to new market opportunities. It opens up extra value contracts. For yourself in your business, lowering operational cost, but also easier access to where you can leverage on subsidies for sustainability initiatives. So 5 steps, okay, where do you start then? So more or less I thought, well, I'm going to present 5 steps how you can start. And it starts in your organization with, we also had it in the panel discussion, know what your situation is, know where you stand, what your utility bill is, identify some key areas for improvement. So that it starts with. Then the next step is improve your resource efficiency. Lots of ways of doing that. Many things are mentioned in how to do it. The most easiest thing that you can do on Monday, I don't know if you work with AI, ChatGPT, and of Copilot of Microsoft. Just give in a prompt. Describe shortly your company situation. You're a company with 100 people. You're a manufacturer of textiles. I want you to give me an advice of what can I do in my organization in energy efficiency. You get already a very quick assessment which can help you to find and give you an idea on what you can do. Stay informed. This is the first big initiative, but stay informed, connect with platforms. Share knowledge also. It's not an individual burden, so to say. You can reach out to your customers, to your suppliers, share knowledge, share resources, to stay tuned with what's coming at you and what the situation is. Yes. Leverage with industry and your branch organizations. And I already said that I skip 1 step, but stay informed and monitor on the regulations. And then, yes, Digitalization is not only for big companies, it's also for smaller companies. And it helps you to monitor and to see where you are. Has smart metering, put smart metering on your biggest energy consumption equipment. But also very simple, you have a Microsoft Sustainability Manager where you can monitor and can define reporting. There are not so there are tools in place which are affordable and make use of it, because it saves your time in terms of automation, less collecting of manual data, and it just also saves you time if your customer or international customer asks from you to give insights in the supply chain, etc. You can easily and automate this kind of information.
Thank you, everyone. Very happy to see there's still some of you around. So, I represent a Danish Confederation of Industries, and that makes it very special for me to be here with a similar organization from Gujarat. And I think this is a point to make, that I think organizations like the Chambers of Commerce, we have a special role in bringing people together and sharing the learning, because I think a lot of the points that have been made today is about learning and competency building. And this is actually our office in Copenhagen. If any of you go to Denmark and Copenhagen, it's right next to the Tivoli. And we have our members' logos on our building to really show our focus on the members. And yes. And one thing I realized thinking about our Danish members and coming with some specific advice for you, and maybe and also for the SMEs. Nordic companies and Danish companies do excellent work on ESG. They put a lot of efforts into their ESG reporting, and it's all online. So here is a first tip for you. If you're in a specific industry and you want to learn about ESG, go and look at the ESG report of a European company in your industry. They will have made a mapping of typical risks. They will have done a lot of methodology. Of course, you cannot apply exactly the same in India, but you don't have to start from scratch. And the other point with this is if you go and look at those reports and those companies are, you want to make them your future customer, you will see what they focus on. You will see exactly where they have goals. For instance, if they write that we have science-based targets for our carbon emissions, well, then you will know that they will ask you how you will align as a supplier. So my first very specific tip for you, read ESG reports. You know, they're free resource and they're excellent to learn. And and you see our companies here, they all do this. And similarly to the event here today, in Denmark, we have a lot of events like this, and we have a lot of sharing about it. We are also broadening out, and I'm part of that, right? We are broadening out to help our Danish companies globally with these initiatives. And I really like this picture, right? It's a Lego, it's a mock-up, right? It's not a true Lego set, but Lego is, of course, one of our members. And approaching these new regulations from the EU on ESG reporting, it is like this picture here, where there's a lot of people involved, a lot of data gathering involved, and so on. So I like that picture, and this is where we are helping the companies make that process efficient. I do want to make a comment about some global trends when it comes to ESG. So Europe is taking a lead when it's driving this through regulation. If you are Googling ESG, you might find a lot of American links, and they will say, you know, the focus is down, the market is down, Trump doesn't like it, Elon Musk certainly doesn't like ESG. So you might think that ESG is not an important topic. I just want to say that the thing with the American market is that there are still plenty of American companies and plenty of American investors who focus on ESG. So America, the US is a very free and open market, so the government actually has less to say than it would be, for instance, in Europe or China. So that's just a remark. Don't think if you come across this, Trump is killing ESG. Yes, from a government perspective in the US, but not in the markets. So if you're dealing with American customers, for instance, in textile industry, they will still be asking for this. But importantly, I think, there's a lot of other parts of the world, like you will be very aware of. And as I mentioned before, you will have to India and Indonesia, African countries, China, all have to find their own path in this. So learn from the US and Europe, which are ahead, but find your own path. And I'll just skip this, and four specific tips, right, if you're dealing with Europe. Start by getting some overall understanding. I will show a bit more about each of these points. Get an overall understanding of what's relevant for you. You do not have to comply with all European regulations. You will need to be aligned with certain parts of it. Understand what is new. And here I mean a lot of these things, for instance, minimum wages. Another thing today, everyone has been talking a lot about the E is in ESG. The S is very important for your European partners. But a lot of the S topics will be covered quite well by existing standards. So if you are doing code of conducts for your customers, that is part of ESG compliance. So also sorting out what are we already doing and what is new. That's an important second step. And then look at your local conditions. Also, your European partners will demand that your ESG efforts are adapted to the local conditions here in India. Yes, and then the last point, remember that your European partners quite often are new to this as well. Even though we're ahead, a lot of the regulations are new. So they also don't know exactly what they want to ask for. So don't take their first request on face value, dig a bit deeper, ask them what is really the intention, and maybe you can find a better solution than what first came across, because they will ask from a European perspective, which is of course very different from here. And one of those basic examples, if we talk about Denmark versus India, is that energy consumption in Denmark is about heating, and here it's about cooling. Right? So they might ask you, what do you do for your heating? And you're like, well, we don't do that much for our heating. So very basic example, but really engage with them because they don't understand. They might not understand the local conditions here. And these are some of the regulations that you need to be aware of. And I actually just want to, is there a pointer? No. The one directive that no one else has mentioned today, it's the second one, CSDD. It's Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. And I particularly want to draw attention to that because so far today, it's been a lot about energy, it's been a lot about net zero, a lot about waste. The social part, again, very important in Europe, and the CSDD is particularly focused on social issues. So if you're selling to Europe, they will ask you about child labor, treatment of women, human rights, living wages, all these issues, and that is extremely important part of ESG. So do not forget that. And CSDD is particularly if you are wanting to sell to large European corporates. And it goes beyond the current maybe code of conduct where you just sign that there is no child labor involved in our production. It goes beyond that you have to really prove it, and there will be more audits. So take note. And I have made this kind of the approach how you need to think about it, try and understand the regulations, and see what the implications are for you in your setting. But I'm cautious of time, and actually I want to, one thing today, everyone, or a lot of people, we've been using the term ESG. But no one has really defined it today. So I picked this, it's from PRI, Principles for Responsible Investments, and this is ESG in the real estate sector. And I chose that for an obvious reason. I think there's quite a few people here today in the real estate sector. And here you will see just some points that are important in ESG due diligence of real estate companies. And again, you see the list of of S issues. You know, there's all the E issues, I think have been, most of them have been covered today. Right, but things like indoor air quality, we discussed that at an event yesterday as well. And materials, all these things, you know, it will be different from sector to sector. Your issues will be different. And that comes back to my suggestion, look at the ESG report of some company in your sector in a more advanced economy, and you will learn a lot for free. And here on the social side, and we had some excellent discussions yesterday as well with some architects. For instance, accessibility. You know, can people in wheelchairs access your buildings? These are actually things, increasingly, that European customers will have to start. This is from an investor side, so if you want to have international European capital into your real estate projects, they will start looking at your buildings. Is it accessible for people, blind people in wheelchairs, all this? And, you know, that can be make it or break it maybe for a deal or for a tenant. Yes, labor standards, all this. So remember the S issues, and also, of course, the governance issues that has been mentioned a bit today, but making sure you have good routines, having documentation on issues like anti-corruption and so on. Yes, and I did cover this already, have dialogues with partners. One thing is your direct trading partners, but also engage in forums like today to learn. And then there are some excellent initiatives. And actually, I work a lot with the supply chains in Asia. And one of the big challenges that is coming is that all the European customers are reaching out to the same supplier. Let's say you're a textile manufacturer, then all the buyers will ask you different questions. And it's an extreme burden being on that side, having to fill out all that forms and all this. So there are both companies, commercial companies, maybe some of you know SEDEX, a British company, that are making these platforms where everyone can report only once, right? And then all the customers get the same information. So look at those initiatives that are good for, applicable to you. And then it's also the same on carbon emission reductions, right? If you're a textile manufacturer, you don't just have one customer, you have many customers. And making those customers come together and collaborate with you, rather than having H&M ask you one question, Zara ask you another question, or both of them asking you to reduce your carbon emissions, but none of them wanting to take the cost, because if Zara takes the costs, well, then H&M will benefit, because it's the same facility. So being smart about partnerships will be extremely important going forward. Yes, and that's it for me. Thank you very much, and I really look forward to following the developments in Gujarat. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Being the last speaker puts a real burden on me to really touch down upon all the points that the esteemed speakers have spoken before me, and then find a way to add value. So till now, we have learned about how MSMEs need to prepare for an increasingly changing world to become not only energy efficient, but drive towards net zero. For that, how policies are local as well as national policies are shaping the overall spectrum of bringing circularity, bringing the net zero or low carbon transition into the picture, and then how can MSMEs can actually prepare themselves, become future ready for a global ESG as well as a export-looking compliance following vision. Now, my topic or the area that I'm going to address is how do corporate social responsibility, CSR, and the sustainability both goes hand in hand, or where is the synergy? Now, while we in India, we see CSR and sustainability as two different compliances, one being voluntary compliance, now becoming steadily a mandatory compliance, and another corporate social responsibility compliance being mandatory since 2013. What we have seen largely till now, till date, is that there is still there is, since there is huge similarity between these two aspects, there is no direct linkage between an strategy at an organization level between CSR and sustainability, where CSR till now has been looked more from the perspective of short-term goals or achieving medium-term targets just to abide by the compliance, majorly done as an additional compliance, but not looked as a strategic intervention of the organization. It actually has created kind of divide between the sustainability and the philanthropy target, where it not only limits the exposure and focus of both these topics at an organization level. That's where the concept of shared value comes into the picture. So when we say shared value, what is shared value? It is actually a bridge between the corporate philanthropy and institutional sustainability, where shared value is when we integrate the broader challenges, societal as well as climate challenges, into the company's strategy and address it into the sustainability strategy of the organization. It is not a compliance, because it's a mindset change, not a compliance change, where we look not to meet a target, but to streamline our governance. It can embed the sustainability as part of the business practices, and it is both inward and outward looking. Now, when we say corporate philanthropy, there are speakers who have already given multiple examples before me how corporate social responsibility has fetched value for their business objectives. Giving an example of Arvind, when in the morning we learned about how their work with working with the cotton farmers helped them streamline the value chain. Now, when it comes to sustainability, we see that we are increasingly understanding our scope 1, 2, and at a level scope 3. Whereas there is a dawn of another scope, which is scope 4, which is a avoided emission. So again, it's not a regulatory, it is not mandatory, but scope 4 as a understanding has been as an understanding since long, and it's rapidly gaining its acceptance among the companies. Scope 4 addresses to the avoided emission from not from the direct or indirect activity of a company, but by using the product or a service of particular organization. So not only focusing on it actually incentivizes the positive outcome of using a product by increasing the company's value and services. It is more comprehensive in the view, where it has kept open doors for third party or external stakeholders like government, like communities, to participate in the corporate governance strategy. And it promotes both learning and innovation for the sustainability at a product scale. So now when we merge two of these fundamental thought processes, one is shared value and scope 4, that is when we actually can practice sustainability at an organization level. That's when the market actually comes in to incentivize you through the carbon market, to incentivize you through meeting different compliances through one activity. So with that, I close this. I would like to close this session. I thank GCCI and all the esteemed speakers who have set the tone before me to add value to MSME today. And we are here to pose this session for any question and answer that we have. Thank you.
Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Grow business. Transform Gujarat.